Hello, everybody. This is another daily dose of the Bible. We are in Matthew. We've been going through Jesus' ministry, starting with when he was born, right in the beginning of Matthew, and now he's finally opened up to his disciples. It's going to be, not the kingdom that they're thinking. He's starting to fill their heads with the information so that they'll be able to accept it when the time comes. And it's a hard time for them to really understand what he's talking about until it actually goes down. And it's getting pretty close to going down. Jesus is going to talk to them a lot about what's going to happen in Jerusalem and that he has to die in order for us to live. So we'll start with chapter 17. Verse 1, and it's the transfiguration. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter and the two brothers, James and John, and led them up a high mountain to be alone. As the men watched, Jesus' appearance transformed, so his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. Suddenly Moses and Elijah appeared and began talking with Jesus. Peter exclaimed, "Lord, it is wonderful for us to be here. If you want, I'll make 3 shelters as memorials, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But even as he spoke, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And a voice from the cloud said, "This is my dearly beloved Son, who brings me great joy. Listen to him." The disciples were terrified and fell face down on the ground. Then Jesus came over and touched them. "Get up," he said, "don't be afraid." And when they looked up, Moses and Elijah were gone, and they saw only Jesus. As they went back down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." Then his disciples asked him, "Why do the teachers of religious law insist that Elijah must come before the Messiah comes?" Jesus replied, "Elijah is indeed coming first to get everything ready. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, but he wasn't recognized, and they chose to abuse him. And in the same way, they will also make the Son of Man suffer." Then the disciples realized he was talking about John the Baptist. This is an interesting story of Jesus taking his disciples up to the mountaintop. Just the 3, Peter, James, and John. And just his close inner circle, the ones that he trusted the most, but also those who he wanted to instill a sheer sense of the reality. I think that he felt they could handle seeing such a thing as him transfigured into a heavenly being and speaking with Moses and Elijah. That's quite a lot of trust that he put in them, and quite a lot of wonderment that would fill their minds. I can't even imagine. Someday we will see such a thing, but to be taken up to the mountaintop and see Jesus transfigured is a very life-changing moment, I'm sure, for these 3 guys. And then they have a new realization that John the Baptist is the return of Elijah that it talks about in the Old Testament, that part of the prophecy is fulfilled through John the Baptist. And also that in the same way Jesus is going to suffer. Well, we heard about John the Baptist being murdered for the pleasure of the wife of Herod at the time. So it must be settling in for these 3 at least that he really is going to die. You'd think they'd be getting it by now. Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. At the foot of the mountain, a large crowd was waiting for them. A man came and knelt before them and said, "Lord, have mercy on my son. He has seizures and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire. So I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him." Jesus said, "You faithless and corrupt people, how long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me." Then Jesus rebuked the demon in the boy, and it left him. From that moment the boy was well. Afterward, the disciples asked Jesus privately, "Why couldn't we cast out that demon?" "You don't have enough faith," Jesus told them. "I tell you the truth, if you had faith as small as a mustard seed, you could say to that mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it would move. Nothing would be impossible." And that's what it takes to get through life, is faith that can move mountains. You need to put all your faith in that Jesus is going to show you the right way and help you to cast out all the demons in your life. Nothing will be impossible. That doesn't mean, you can walk on the moon or, those kinds of things. But whatever you're suffering through, whatever the hard times, if you just have that faith that Jesus will help you through, that God's there with you, it will be possible to get through it. And you'll feel better on the other side. No matter the outcome. Jesus predicts his death again. After they gathered in Galilee, Jesus told them, "The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of enemies. He will be killed, but on the third day he will be raised from the dead." And the disciples were filled with grief. And one thing that gets me about all these times that he's talking about it is, Judas must have been there. He must have been in that group, and oh no, Lord, what a horrible thing. But he already was probably plotting in his heart to betray him, and I hope, I'm sure Jesus didn't give him the idea with his suggestions, but that he just was a selfish person who saw a way to make himself profit. And, Jesus is once again trying to get his disciples to understand the true gravity of the situation. What's really going to happen is he's really going to die. But then he'll be raised again. And, having seen him raise a few people from the dead, I'm sure, maybe they do really believe that that's going to happen and put their faith in him. So the next segment is payment of the temple tax. On their arrival in Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and asked him, "Does your teacher pay the temple tax?" "Yes, he does," Peter replied. Then he went into the house. But before he had a chance to speak, Jesus asked him, "What do you think, Peter? Do kings tax their own people, or the people they have conquered?" "They tax the people they have conquered," Peter replied. "Well then," Jesus said, "the citizens are free. However, we don't want to offend them. So go down to the lake and throw in a line. Open the mouth of the first fish you catch, and you will find a large silver coin. Take it and pay the tax for both of us." And that's pretty cool. Little story about, it's like, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Pay your taxes, because that's what we do. And he made it magically appear in a fish's mouth to pay their taxes. That's just the kind of thing that he does. He likes to bring glory from his actions. God's always working to show the glory through you, as long as you are willing to give God the glory. So I just pray that you will take these words and take them into your heart and your mind and let them settle and give you peace, that you will grow closer to Christ with every breath and every word that you read or hear.